lsdrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. We're broadcasting today live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio. Lone Star is located right here in Conroe, Texas, and it is the community radio station for Montgomery County, Texas. And thank you for joining us. I always like to start off with a little bit of business news or a business idea you can use. And this came up in one of my roundtable groups. I mentor the Silver Foxes that I'm part of, mentor a number of CEO business roundtables. And this idea of growing your business. You know, it's interesting as you go around under the current, let's call it economic condition, very few small business people are talking about growing. They tend to spend a lot of time worrying about recession, about hiring people, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the show. You know, a lot of uncertainty, it seems to be, and this national surveys prove that out. But growing your business is something I think that every business, depending on where you want to go with your business, what's your plan, needs to keep in the back of your mind, if nothing else, at all times. And just to remind you today, you can grow your business internally, organically, as the experts like to say, strategically, or through acquisitions. And the acquisitions is the one that very, very few small businesses, I find, take a notice of. And there's a lot of great information out there, and I think every business, again, depending on your personal plan, you as the owner of the business, if you want to grow, then you decide how you grow your business, right? You're in control. That's what's small business to me. That's the heart of it. You're in control of the business as an owner. But I encourage you, if you haven't taken a look at it, look at acquisition, acquiring another business of similar size, maybe smaller, maybe even larger, that would be complementary to what you do, maybe do the same thing you do. Maybe it's in another market. But keep that in your mind and don't quit looking. I mean, even right now, because there are so many businesses for sale because, quote unquote, my generation, the baby boomers, are starting to retire. And there's lots and lots of businesses for sale out there. So consider it as you go forward today. You know, the Weekly Business Hour over the past 8-10 years is the place where Montgomery County and businesses now throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business ideas, how to improve their businesses, and be part of our conversation that could make a real difference in your business. I want to remind you that we're broadcasting live currently on YouTube or Facebook. Just go to the Weekly Business Hour page, click on it, and you can listen as well as watch us in this broadcast. Also, if you have an idea, you have a thought, you have a criticism, or you just have a business question, drop me a line, email at that's the number 1, bestconsult@gmail.com. OneBestConsult@gmail.com. As you regular listeners know, I like to go to what I call the mailbag, pull out a question, an inquiry about someone has with their business, and we're going to do that today because there's always very interesting questions and points made in that mailbag, if you will. So please consider mailing an email to me with your question, criticism, thought about how the show's presented, anything on your mind business-wise. OneBestConsult@gmail.com. Well, now we're going to get into the real show, right? We're going to have a conversation, which I love doing. It's a favorite part of the show every week. I like other people to talk besides myself. And we are fortunate, in my opinion, to have Justin Sullivan, who is the president and CEO of the Sullivan Management Consulting Group, with us today. And we're going to have a conversation about managing your business, and in particular, the management of medical practices. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick, for having me today.
Well, I appreciate you taking time. You and I met, 5, 6, 8 years ago?
At least.
And you were doing something different. Kind of let the folks know what your business background is, if you don't mind.
So I've been in healthcare since about 1997. And in about 2004, I got into more of a specialty into ophthalmology in Dallas, and stayed in ophthalmology really for most of my career, working, as an employee for someone till about 2015. 2015, I opened up my own consulting business. That's when I first got started in consulting, and took the knowledge that I had gained from managing those practices and driving revenue, driving growth, and taking that out nationally to show other practices that they too can be successful in areas that they maybe didn't think about, or they weren't concerned about, and maybe they should have been. So, brought a lot of value to a lot of practices over the years.
Well, what's interesting to me, you've been able to grow your business, I guess, organically, but more so strategically, to fall back on something I've already mentioned, because you've got a national scope. Curious, and I think a lot of our listeners, we always talk about marketing. It's the number one topic of small business. Oh, yeah. How do you market your business? How do you let people know you're out there, especially on that broad of a scale?
Right. The word of mouth for me has always been big. So I've been big on networking. I use LinkedIn a lot. A lot of the academies, you have the different academies for the different specialties. So like AAO or ASOA, ASCRS. In the ophthalmology realm, those are like the bigger ophthalmology organizations that you can be a part of. So I have listings on those sites. I communicate with, on their boards on anything that they may have questions on, and then, marketing. So, doing LinkedIn, doing Google, being able to submit newsletters and whatnot. That's primarily how I do most of my marketing.
What is the single best source of leads? Is it the referrals?
I think the referrals are the best. I mean, it's what I consider a warm lead, right? You're not going out, you're not knocking on a door, you're not asking for their business. Somebody that you've worked with, somebody that knows you has said, hey, I've used this guy, I've used this group, they've done a great job for me. I encourage you to use them too. So by the time I get there, they already know what I've done for this other organization, and for me, it's more of a handshake, walk in the door, now it's time to get to work.
You're in the management business. I look at that as a broad scope. We manage our business. Means different things to different people.
Right.
It's different for big business, small business. To me, there's a lot of the basics are the same. I always try to get my small businesses to pay a little attention to the big boys. You can read an article, but you pick up something and you say, now how can I apply that? What are your secrets to successfully managing a business? What do you work with your clients? What do you tell them?
I think my experience with managing, other practices for these doctors over the years really gave me a good insight. I mean, I learned how to lead people. I learned how to motivate people. Learned how to, communicate and implement. I think a lot of people struggle with, they may have the best idea in the world, but how do you implement that, and how do you get somebody behind you to help you do that? On both sides. Even on the consulting side now, when I do management with these practices, I have to get the team that's on site to get behind me to help me get this thing going. Because again, I can have the best ideas in the world, I can make your organization make a ton of money, but if you can't get the people behind you to do that, it takes manpower. It can determine whether you're successful or not.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's all about people, first, second, and third, or is it real estate? So I don't, who knows? But let's talk about getting the people behind you in management. What are some of the tips you could offer our listeners about how to get your people behind you?
I think the biggest thing, especially if you're a new manager or a new owner, or you've never really had any experience in business, but all of a sudden you have these people that you have to take care of, is you don't want to come across aggressive. You don't want to come across rude. You don't want to come across as condescending, or that they're not important, because they're really the lifeblood of your business. They're going to take care of your clients. They're going to take care of your patients. They're going to be the ones answering the phones and making the appointments. They're going to be the ones that are greeting the patients when they walk in the door, and working the patients up for the doctor when they come in. So showing them that they're valuable, giving them power to do their job. I think empowering them is a very important thing. Listening to what they have to say. I mean, they're on the front lines. They're dealing with the day-to-day. You as the owner are typically working more on the big picture, and so you need to know what's going on. So you can help them and push them in the right direction and where they need to go to be successful for themselves, but successful for your business too. So, I think that for me, it's all about the morale. It's all about the culture that you create. And if you do a good job at that, you're going to have a good team behind you.
You know, that's something that just sort of sticks to my head forever now. And in fact, I was involved in a discussion with some small business people last week. You know, you go do business, say as a consumer or business to business, doesn't matter, but you're buying services or products or whatever, and it's amazing. You'll do business, or at least for me, always has been. You do business, you buy a product, service from someone, and how the entire transaction is handled. You just smile. You say, this is wonderful. But the next 5 attempts to do the same thing or similar thing, you just kind of, I mean, and it's a scale. It's either really bad, but it's not really great. It's what causes such a, I mean, 4 out of 5 business, I don't know what the research shows in this question, but the fact is that most people don't get it when they manage a business to put themselves right at the top.
I had this conversation over the weekend, so it's
well. There we go.
It's a great topic, and I think what has happened, times have accelerated us to this point where a lot of people think mediocrity is okay, or they will accept mediocrity, right? And I came from more of a private boutique, the Nordstroms, if you will, like more of a you want to raise the bar high, you want to provide this customer service, and I think a lot of people have just gotten away from that, and they've hired people based on necessity, but not necessarily on what their output is and what they can provide to the group. Are you a good employee for this business? Should I bring you on to represent me? Or am I just trying to fill a hole and I'll worry about the rest of that stuff later? They forget the branding, the imaging is so important. It's so important, and I think a lot of people miss that with their businesses. So. I think that, again, when you're looking for people to represent you, when you're going through the interview process, you need to make sure you can train them to do almost whatever, but can you get them to learn a new personality? Most people will tell you no. Personality you can't change. Personality you can't train. They either have it or they don't. And how do you want them to reflect you in your business?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's part of one of my cornerstones with the business is I'm hiring, in that hiring process, which was one of the areas I kind of personally took to many years ago and have done hiring for clients and whatnot. But you start with that personality, because I can train most of the skills, maybe not all of them. I mean, if I'm a heart doctor's surgical nurse, yeah, there's lots of skill there. But the point is that and it's happened time and time again, from the lowest level up to the mid levels. Got to have that attitude, got to have that personality.
I tell everybody you lead from the top. How you represent from the top of the organization will trickle down. And it's very important that, the president, the CEO, the business owner, your management staff, they all reflect that image, what you're trying to portray across. I mean, because that's going to go all the way down.
Yeah, it's no doubt about it. It's a sidebar on that, and I mentioned it maybe, and I'm sure you see the same thing. I'll have someone come and talk to me about going into business, or they've been in business for a time and it's not working and what's going on. And after I give them an hour just to talk to me and whether I'm going to work with them or not, it becomes evident that they're just in the wrong business, or they're in business at all, right? And I talk over 50% of the people that come to me to go into business, I talk them out of the business at least that they're looking at, because they just don't have, if it needs a lot of customer service and you don't have that in your heart, boy, you better run.
I agree. I mean, I think depending on the business that you're in, again, I mean, I run into it all the time with my clients. I have somebody that's great at what they do specifically, but they're not great at running a business, right? So either, to your point, pointing them in a different direction, or making sure they have the tools or the resources, the people underneath them that can help them do that piece that they're not good at.
One of the things, and again, I think you're fortunate in a sense that you have a national exposure, so to speak. How do you find the climate out there right now for doing business? In particular, I assume most of your medical practices would be considered small business, in a sense, 250 or less employees. How do you find the current climate for these businesses or any small business currently?
I find, especially when they reach out to me, by the time they contact me, they're usually in some form of a crisis, right? And it's never like, hey, we're doing great, but we'd like to see what you can do to help us refine it and do better. Or maybe we want to grow and we want to start looking at acquisitions and whatnot. It's always, everything's burning down around them. They're wondering if they're going to make it to the next month, or they're wondering if, what they're going to do for the next 6 months, and it's a crisis. So I find that even right now, COVID, created a ton of crisis going into COVID, especially with medical practices, even with, surgery facilities and hospitals. I mean, there was all these rules that changed that they had to abide by. And now that they've come out, the ones that have come out decent or good, I mean, they've continued to do well, but then they created all this infrastructure issue during that time. They had to let people go. They had to bring on new employees. They had to, go from seeing maybe a patient face-to-face for a specific type of appointment, and all of a sudden it's a telehealth visit now, right? They're looking at the insurance reimbursements, which in the healthcare side, they're always adjusting those. They're always making cuts, and every year there's always more cuts, right? So healthcare becomes more expensive to provide healthcare, but they're getting paid less to do it. So, how can they overcome that? How can they, bring in a new service or have a new product, or what can they do to maximize on what they currently have now to become more efficient?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I actually had one of my doctors, urologist, who quit doing telemedicine. Mm-hmm. He did it because of the COVID, and I'm a patient. I live over 50 miles away from his practice, mm-hmm. and that's made me think I need to get something closer, right? Mm-hmm. Because I relied on, not for a full exam, but mm-hmm. for medications and things, mm-hmm. and embraced it. But that's a question of how he wants to run his business, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I think in the right setting, the right practice, telehealth is great. It's great, but obviously, just like with any specialty that you may be in, there's going to be those patients that you need to bring in. But you can at least do an assessment via video, and then you can bring them in based upon that information and have probably a little bit better insight before they walk through the door.
Yeah, I would think and I'm not a doctor, right? Never have been, never will. But I would have that in my tool bag as part of what I do. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have drawn to the close of our first segment today. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Justin and the medical practices, because I think it's very interesting, even if you're not in a medical practice, to understand how doctors and medical practitioners can do it better. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Does your company have needs that can be met by an employee who is dependable, hardworking, enthusiastic, motivated, cooperative, respectful, and punctual? Conroe Independent School District Special Education Department can meet your needs by connecting you with potential employees that have been preparing for a lifetime of employment. We have numerous individuals seeking paid and unpaid work experiences. If your company is interested in seeing how we can meet your business needs, call Conroe ISD Special Education Department to find the best employees for you at 936-709-7671.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
God's Garage is a 501c3 that repairs and gives away cars for free to single moms, widows, and wives of deployed military. You can help God's Garage by donating a vehicle, volunteering your time, or by monetary donation. God's Garage is located at 2106 East Davis, Conroe. If you'd like to learn more about God's Garage, visit our website at godsgarage.org. Or you can contact us and we would be glad to come and make a presentation to your group.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log in to irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for a summer internship, Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to learn the radio and TV business. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776. Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. And we're here today having a conversation with Justin Sullivan. Justin is in the, medical practice management business. Is that a fair way to say it in common language?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, private practice and usually smaller hospitals I'll work with.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's good to know because there are a lot of things. Medical industry, where you focus your business, healthcare, I guess is the broad name. It's going through changes all the time. I think it always has been. Mm-hmm. My father-in-law was a surgeon, a urologist, and back in the day, and he would literally drive, he said, every Saturday out to Tomball to do surgeries because they didn't have anybody in their little hospital. So obviously from there, 40, 50 years ago, things are changing, and it's not just a new phenomenon, is it?
Yeah, it has been changing, a lot. I would say, probably about, I don't know how long it's been now, almost 15 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. They started pushing the private practices and healthcare in general to more of, instead of having the paper charts where you go in, they open it up, they write on the piece of paper, to go into electronic. And so when they went to electronic, I feel like that things started escalating even faster than it did prior to that. So, they're looking at, different measurements for patient care whenever they go in. Of course, everything's, on the server or in the cloud, and, security, and, you have all these extra expenditures that the private practices, these doctors, especially like the, single one or two doctors were not expecting. And then all of a sudden they get hit with these huge software and IT bills, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it and still provide the same type of care to their patients. So, and then just dealing with the reimbursement side. I mean, a lot of practices have been hit very hard just on, what they get paid from the insurance companies. Whatever gets submitted to the insurance company, that's not what the doctor gets, and or even the facility gets that you may have a procedure done at. And a lot of people don't know that. I mean, they slash that. You can cut that in over half, and that's really what those guys are getting. And by the time they pay their staff and pay for the equipment and make pay their overhead, there's really not as much there as what people think. So it definitely has made, I think, from a business standpoint, where it's more volume driven now. Which to me is one of the downsides of the slashing of the reimbursements and whatnot, is that they're having to see more patients now to make the same type of revenue they did before, which requires obviously more support to be able to do that, which can be very, very trying and very hard for practices, especially if they don't know how to run a business successfully.
Yeah, I know when my father-in-law retired, he did so. He retired and then he went and taught at medical school where he graduated from, so that was his career plan. But he didn't want to retire, but what you're talking about, the back end, the administrative had gotten so difficult, and in his mind at that time, expensive. One of the things that, and I mentioned to you when he came in, I got real sick about 3 years ago, went through a whole thing. But even since then, I've noticed, because I pay a lot more attention to the detail, is this technical evolution is speeding up. It's getting faster. So if I want to communicate with my doctor, I go online and I'm in the Methodist system right now, and type a message, which I'm going to do today. I had something happen over the weekend, and just let them know this. I'm not, no phone call, no getting put on hold, no callbacks. Just send a message, and I always get a response. Mm-hmm. It's not an email, but it's within their system. I noticed during COVID when the shots came out, mm-hmm. and I was in Memorial Hermann system at that time, then my doctor moved, but the efficiency they offered to set those shots up, because you're hearing all the horror stories of people waiting in line and mm-hmm. stuff, I was blown away because I knew they were dealing with thousands of people. How do you keep up doing what you're doing with all the technology that's out there?
So it's constantly changing, and what I do, I actually work with a lot of vendors that provide this type of technology, because it's one of the things that we go into when we go into practices and say, hey, listen, you may have this particular piece. Maybe your EMR or EHR software has what they call a patient portal, similar to what you're talking about with Methodist, and you can get on there and you can communicate. But then there's also these other software companies, these developers that they remind you of your appointments. They can make sure you're getting the latest in information based on whatever you may have going on, education, if you will. Instead of getting the printout when you go to the doctor and you take it home and you're trying to understand and translate it yourself, you're Googling these terms and terminology, right? But, technology is going to continue to advance. And, I think, again, for those that are able to stay on that cusp and continue to get ahead of it, I think they're going to do well. I think the ones that fall behind and don't keep up with it, I think those are the ones that are going to have a harder time, especially over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think you're. And again, I'm not in your business. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an IT guy. But as a patient, I see it, and so our listeners understand. And small business, I recently went through a deal with oral surgery, and the oral surgeon, his practice, their practice, had similar software as far as communication with the patient. I mean, I got a reminder every week, and I mean, everything was handled in a similar fashion. There were some things that they didn't, but I'm sort of fixated on this type of thing because I'm in the system and I want to stay. Because the communication, especially in a case like me where I have a lot of medical records now, for the new doctor or the next doctor to be aware of certain things. I hope I get better care with all this technology.
Well, it's nice because you can transfer the files now. You can do it digitally, right? And before you had to read a doctor's hand, what they call chicken scratch, right? And hope you could understand what they're saying. But now everything's transferred over. It's clear. It's timely. There's all the details that need to be in there. Any communications that you may have had, all that's documented in the system. It has a timestamp, the person that put it in, when you communicate it, all that stuff's in there. So it's like a tracking method too. But communication's key. I mean, I even noticed this with, I go get a massage every couple of weeks, and I can text them through their text message system, and I can ask them questions, or through a veterinarian that I have for my dog. You can text them questions, and they answer me right on there. I don't have to send an email, or I don't have to log into a portal, and that's really nice, especially when you're on the go and you just want to make it quick and fast, and they're very attentive. So I think the technology is, again, I think it's a very important piece of anyone's business.
And, again, in the medical business, but who doesn't make their appointments on an app these days? Everything, I basically get a haircut, it's an app.
That's right.
And I can just be anywhere, and I can make that appointment when it's on my mind and do it. And I'm saying this to our small business listeners. If your business involves appointments as part of your services, whatever, if you don't have an app out there, you need to get one.
And I'll add to that is it's not as expensive as you think it is.
Right.
There's a lot of things out there that are very, very affordable and can definitely help you grow your business.
Well, let's go back to your business. What value do you bring to the medical practice besides helping them fight that fire that caused them to call you?
The experience that I have, and even my team has, we're not just focused, specifically, let's say, on operations. We can get in, to the weeds. We can get into their credentialing. We can get into their revenue cycle management, their billing. We can get into their accounting and their finance. We can get into the clinic, so get into, patient flows, training of technicians and additional information for providers and whatnot. So there's a lot of things that my organization has to offer. So we're not, a one service and this is the only thing that we can do, but we provide a range of services. We can help them on their marketing. If they need a website, they need some campaigns. Digital, advertising is the bigger way to go now, right? We're not seeing so much of the traditional, the TV and the print. Especially in healthcare, everything's transitioned a lot over to the digital aspect. So, but just again, bringing multiple years, if I over 30 years worth of experience with my team into a practice, and we're going to be able to find the things that you need to be have looked at and see how we can get back on track, and we're going to be efficient with it. We've done it before. This is not going to be a new thing for us. We're used to solving problems, and we're going to be able to get in there and provide you the right direction, the right resources, to make it happen.
Sounds like you do what my dad used to call soup to nuts. You do it all.
That's right.
As far as the practice itself is concerned.
That's right.
You don't give medical advice, do you, though?
No medical advice. No medical advice.
Well, let me ask you, if I was and I had a practice, or I was a small hospital, what should be my expectations if I engage your services?
I tell everybody, the engagement is the most important part. And I think, from a business standpoint, it needs to be communicated very clearly. A consultant, when we're going in there, one of the first things that we're going to do is we've taken the information that you've talked to us about, but we really need to go in and provide our own assessment, right? People can tell you what they think the problem is, but when we get in, again, our years of experience, we're able to get in there and actually pinpoint the areas of concern. It may not be what they thought it was, or maybe it is, but maybe the solution or what they thought could fix it is not the right solution, the way to fix it. So, I tell them we're not going to go in there and just start making a lot of chaos, a lot of changes and whatnot. We're going to communicate the process with you throughout the entire project, and we're going to show you how to do it and how to do it right, and we're going to be there to support you along the way, right? They need to understand that you're working with the consultant. The consultant's not doing it all by themselves. It takes a team to make this thing happen, which is very important, because I think a lot of people think, I'm going to hire this consultant, they're just going to come in and they're going to take care of everything. No, it doesn't work that way, because I still need their support. I still need their team support, because we still have to get it done.
Yeah, you're not going to manage their practice for them.
That's
You're
exactly
just going
right.
to show them best practices, I assume,
That's
and
right.
train their people if need to do it. Well, Justin, I can't thank you enough for coming in. This has really been an enlightening conversation, and I know our listeners, regardless of their business or their desires to be in a business, had to learn a lot, especially about management. Again, that's something that I don't think the average small business person, average meaning generally speaking, really pays much attention to, as much as they could. And really, like you say, it's my word, secret sauce to the success of the business, no doubt about it. If someone wanted to reach out to you, listen to this piece, what's the best way for them to do that?
So they can visit our website at sullivanmcg.com. That's SULLIVAN, M as in Mary, C as in cat, G as in George.com. Or they can also find us on LinkedIn or Facebook under Sullivan Management and Consulting Group.
Well, again, thanks so much. Enjoyed it. Lots of information. Love to have you back again when you have something that you feel could offer that would be of great value, or some value, or maybe, who knows, but have you back on the show. It's been a wonderful time visiting today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our bottom of the hour break in a minute. And what's coming up in the second half of the show? Well, again, we're going to go to the mailbag. I warned you in advance. We received an email that, and I'm quoting, "Our sales continue to seesaw up and down. What can I do to slow or stop the downs and keep things at least flat, if not going up?" So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to have an interesting suggestion and a response to that question. And then we'll finish up today. One Best Consult Tip of the Week: why does hiring new employees continue to be so difficult? Any trend, any cycle like we're going through, it begins to mature. And I think you'll be interested to learn some of the other causes. And we can talk about how long we think this is going to continue. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Don't miss Lone Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Welcome back. You've been listening to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Appreciate you joining us today on the show. I hope you enjoyed that conversation we just finished with Justin Sullivan. Lots of good information, I thought, about management. And there's a lot more to management than most of us, particularly in small business, give thought to. Obviously, the large corporations, they work on management every day. Thousands of employees, they've got to have that management. But I contend again that if you improve your management, if you hone it, if you take it from 0 to something or from 50 to 100, whatever, improve it. It can make a real difference in your business. And I'm talking top line, bottom line, and the place where you do business, your employees. You'll see it come through. So I encourage you, if you didn't hear the entire conversation, to re-listen, or if you're inclined to, please share today's program. It'll come out Wednesday. It'll be produced. It'll be available on the Weekly Business Hour page on Facebook, YouTube, and also here at the station, Lone Star Community Radio. Under our show, you'll be able to pick up a copy and share it. So I encourage you to do so. Also want to remind you that you could sponsor the program. Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit radio station here serving Montgomery County. If you have a business in the area and would like to sponsor the show so your name is associated with the Weekly Business Hour, then please reach out to me. Just drop me an email at onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's the number 1, bestconsult@gmail.com. I'll send you some information. And we'd love to include you as a sponsor and supporter of Lone Star Community Radio. Well, let's get over to the mailbag. This item came in last week. I was thrilled to receive it. It's an interesting question, but one I think that a lot of businesses, are large and small, are facing. This came from Bob. He asked, our sales continue to seesaw up and down. What can I do to slow or stop the downs and keep things at least flat, if not going up? Well, Bob is pointing out what is happening right now, has been happening to a lot of businesses. He's not unique. And I'm sure some of the listeners of this program have seen their sales going up and down, up and down. And I'm talking about within the month, even the week, definitely within the quarter and within the year. I want to give you my response to Bob and my response to you. Obviously, we could talk for hours about sales and how to increase sales and grow your business. We've done a lot of that on this show before. But what I want to do is back up for a second and ask you a question. You, the listener, you, Bob, have you ever researched if the demand for your products or services is declining are growing with the economy. In other words, I contend that a lot of us, and I can raise my hand at some point in time when I had my own business, I was really not aware where I fit in the marketplace. I didn't, and part of that is understanding where my sales are coming from. And are they going up? Are they declining? Is the product and service, though, in general? That means all of us who are competitors, all of us who are offering a product. It could be on e-commerce. Is the marketplace, in the marketplace, is the product or service going up, the number of sales, the number of units, or is it declining? Is it flat? Because many times we look inward in our business. It's like we spend a lot of time in front of that mirror in the bathroom, and it's all about us, right? It's all about us. We think only about us. We only think within the four walls, if you will, of our business. And the fact that we're not shipping enough product or not enough service calls, or in Bob's case, as we've seen with the talk of recession and COVID and things bounce around a lot. But we think about our business. And my challenge to you is take the time, do a little bit of research. You can go to your Chamber of Commerce if you have one. You go to the library. You can Google. There's lots of broad information out there. The other way to get information, and again, I'm always amazed at the number of businesses that don't ever take the time to talk to their customers. And that could be a survey you send. That could be one-on-one. Or if you have a sales force, have them talk to your vendors. We've talked about that on this show. The vendors typically can provide a lot of good information. Well, I never see my vendor. Well, communicate with them. If your vendor's a 1-800 number or an email or a website, reach out and establish a relationship with someone at that vendor and talk to them of what they're seeing in the marketplace, particularly in your marketplace. It's very important to establish a base, the base for what your expectations should be. And once you understand that where your products and services in general, how they're doing in the marketplace, going up, going down, staying flat, then you're better able to tackle that obvious question is, how can I even out or keep my growth pattern at least moving up a little bit, if not a lot? I think it's very important. Looking in the mirror, it serves its purpose. But so many businesses, at least in my experience, tend to become, and I'll use the word ingrown. They just look in. They get a tunnel vision going. And I really strongly believe you're never going to answer the question that Bob asked unless you know what your expectations should be. And you're absolutely never going to find the solutions that will smooth things out at the very least, at least keeping things flat if the economy in general is weighing on you, or hopefully get that sales number, that revenue number starting to move up. So please take the time, research a little bit, talk to people, understand where your market is and what your expectations should be, because that should, to some degree, to dictate the actions that you're going to take to make the situation better for you and your business. We're going to take our final commercial break of the day, and when I come back, I'm going to talk to you in the tip of the week. Why does hiring new employees continue to be so difficult? There are other factors coming into play. I want to share those with you and talk about it, because this appears to be a long-term trend unless something dramatic happens. So we'll talk about that. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org, that's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Welcome back. You've been listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. And again, thanks for joining us today. Hope we provided some of those benefits we promised, such as ideas you can put into place today that can make a real difference in your business. Well, our One Best Consult tip of the week. And before I go to that, I want to mention one thing. If you have an idea, if you have a question, if you have a criticism of the show, drop me that email. It's very important to me. I thought we had a really good question come in last week that we discussed today on the air in the mailbag, and we do that. So if it's for that purpose, please send it to bestconsult@gmail.com. That's bestconsult@gmail.com. Well, let's talk about the hiring difficulty. Generally speaking, every business is facing challenges to find enough warm bodies, and we'll start with that, to find people, find applicants. I have heard stories again and again, where local businesses in the Montgomery County area in Texas, greater Houston area, where they'll put an ad out, they'll go to the digital ads on Indeed and ZipRecruiter, they'll go to print ads, they'll do all the various types of places and types of advertising. And after 3 months, they've only got 2 or 3 applicants. And this is not a new job per se. It's a job they've filled before, and they need to fill now. And it's amazing. It's a lack of potential candidates, obviously, in the marketplace. But back on the 1st of this month, there was an article Ian Thomas published in CNBC, and he did some interviewing with some folks, and I think some of the things they pointed out and some things that I've recognized will give you a more up-to-date explanation beyond just there aren't people available. There are not warm bodies out there available. And again, notice that we haven't even got to qualified people. But the fact is, over the last 5 or 6 months, according to data from Paychex, over the last 5 or 6 months, hiring by U.S. small businesses, they're defining that with 50 or less employees, has slowed each month more and more. So small businesses, one of the reaction is either they're cutting back, their revenue has dropped, their sales have dropped, so they don't need as many people, or maybe they just have combined jobs. Maybe they have figured out ways to cover these openings with more efficient production processes. I don't know. We talked about that on the show a couple weeks ago. The opportunity and the efficiencies and what some of the big guys like McDonald's are doing are cutting the need for the number of people in their stores. But the fact is that in small business now, we are cutting back on our hiring. And it's not because business maybe is down. And this seems to be the question of recession. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? To me, the bottom line for myself as a business owner, where are my sales? I mean, are they up? Are they down? Where are my sales opportunities? What are my customers doing? And again, there's a lot of turmoil in the marketplace. A lot of businesses are reporting that customers have cut back. Restaurants is one of the big areas that I personally hear about in the marketplace here, because people have cut back on the number of times they're eating out a week. This is due to inflation, the loss of buying power that currently is impacting everybody everywhere. So I don't need as many employees because my business has dropped. It's obvious. So it was interesting also to read in this report that was in Mr. Thomas's article that 50% of small business owners that were polled by CNBC in a small business survey said it was harder to hire in the third quarter that just ended than it was a year ago. And it's still got another month to go. I mean, another couple of weeks to go. But it is harder. So it continues to be hard to hire when you want to hire. And the question really to me and what I'm trying to convey to you is, one, hiring is still hard. So if you're willing and want to hire someone, you're still going to find it generally difficult to find qualified candidates that you would consider for the role. 2, large businesses, the larger companies have cut back their hiring. Now, do they know something we don't know? Do they have a crystal ball that says recession is on the horizon or already here, depending on what economists you listen to? And they're setting themselves up by reducing their workforce. I think that's something for all of us to consider. And I think the hiring process that small businesses have lost business, and the third thing being that they've lost business so they don't need the people. But again, if you need people, if you're looking to fill open slots, you're looking to grow, it's still going to be a challenge. There's just every indicator that I've seen, including the ones that Mr. Thomas cites in his article, indicate that. Another aspect of this hiring issue is the higher wages. The inflation has driven wages up. It's amazing. 28% of people have not been able to fill their open roles for at least 3 months. And that's amazing, even though wages are up 10, 20% or more. And so I guess that's my fourth point. What it is, you've got all this pressure on trying to hire people coming from different directions, not just the fact that there's not qualified people in the marketplace. That is still at the core, I believe, but you've got the inflation and the wages. So you decide, for an example, in your business, well, I can go up a little bit in my wage, but if I go up too far, then I have to raise the price of my products, and I've done that, but I can't do any more. You know, you make decisions like that. That's happening. That's a pressure on the hiring process, that finding the people, and even if you find them, can you pay them? Can you afford them? I think this is a complete, it's a situation that is completely, what is the right word? I don't want to say out of control, but it's a situation that is getting worse and worse. And at some point, like any situation that gets worse and worse, it's going to find a bottom. Hopefully it doesn't explode. This is some of the indications of recession. The fact that, boom, it just goes. We can't find the people, we can't grow. Can't find the people to keep the doors open. I mean, look at businesses. Again, restaurants stick out because they're everywhere. Restaurants that have cut back the days of the week that they're open or reduced hours. I went to the pharmacy the other day at Kroger in the neighborhood, and the drive-thru was closed. And I said, well, this can't be true. I know they're open this time of day, mid-afternoon. When inside, they were open, but they didn't have enough employees to cover the drive-thru. Think about that. And there are people that, I mean, they go to the drive-thru. They're not going to buy groceries, so now they have to park and go inside the store, and Kroger's going to lose some business over that. That's a phenomenon of this lack of people. In their case, I'm sure qualified people such as pharmacists, et cetera. So I think this is an important question. It's an important issue. If you need people, you need to be prepared to take time to fill the slots. I think you need to provide a wage and benefit program so you keep people. I think you need to train your people, and you need to look for those efficiencies that possibly you can combine jobs or do things more efficiently or outsource, which used to be real popular, certain functions that you can still maintain your quality with. All of this has reached a critical point. Thank you to Justin Sullivan for joining us this week. I appreciate his comments on management. And again, if you'd like to reach out to him, his website is sullivanmcg.com. And I hope you'll put it down in your calendar to join us next week, 11 a.m. on Monday, when we'll have another new version of the Weekly Business Hour for you. And until next week, my encouragement, stay engaged and do the things that are important for your business. Thanks.